takes a lot of space, unfortunately. And we have a few problems to do here. This goes with your notes 221 on long division. And remember that you have a test next Monday. So we have changed a little bit. We're going to do lessons Monday through Thursday. And then Friday will be a test review. And then your test is actually going to be next Monday. So let's get started. I'm going to rewrite this. I'm going to pause my video and rewrite this, and then I'll come back to you. So without reteaching this whole lesson, because you should have done the notes before you came over here to do the classwork, I want to remind you that in the dividend, you need to make sure, well, in the divisor also, but in the dividend, you need to make sure if it starts with like x to the fourth, you need to have an x cubed term, an x squared term, an x term, and a constant. If you don't have those, you have to fill them in with zeros. So for example, if this wasn't here, I would fill in a 0x squared. So just remember that as we go along. That goes for both the divisor and the dividend. Okay, also remember that you only are really looking at this term and this term to determine what goes up here. So I need to determine how many times x divides into x to the fourth. Really, it's x to the fourth divided by x to the first, which when you're dividing variables that have different exponents, you just subtract. So it's x to the 4 minus 1, which is x cubed. So that's the first thing that's going to go up here is x cubed. I'm going to get rid of what I put over here. I think. All right. So then what I have to do is I have to multiply this, multiply the x cubed times the x squared. You know what, that's a bad idea to put that x up there. Let's put our dot. So that times that, x cubed times x squared is x to the fourth. And if you don't get the same thing here for the blue part as you do the red, then you've done something wrong. And then I'm going to multiply the x cubed times 2. And that goes here. So plus 2x cubed. And then I'm going to put my line down there because I'm going to combine. But the next thing I need to do is change everything to the opposite of what it was. So that's going to be a negative, that's going to be a negative, and then I combine. X to the fourth minus x to the fourth is 0. I don't need to put a 0 down here, but I do know that those cancel each other out. And if they don't, you've done something wrong. They have to cancel each other out or you can't keep going. All right, 12 minus 2 is 10. So this is 10x cubed. And then I bring down the plus 28x squared. Okay, so what is 10x cubed divided by x? It's 10x squared because it's the 3 minus the 1, or you could write it 10x xx over x, and one of those is going to cancel out, and you have 10x squared left over. All right, so 10x cubed, so I'm looking at this and this again. 10x cubed divided by x is plus 10x squared. 10x squared times x, 10x cubed. 10x squared times 2 plus 20x squared. Okay, now change everything to the opposite and then combine. These cancel. 28 minus 20 is 8x squared. Bring down the 11x. I'm writing too big. I'm going to run out of room. Okay, 8x squared. 8x squared divided by x is plus 8x. 8x times x, 8x squared. 8x times 2, 16x. Change them to the opposite. Minus, minus. That cancels. 11 minus 16 is negative 5x. Bring down the minus 8. I might have enough room. Yeah, I will. Okay, negative 5x divided by x is minus 5. Okay, negative 5 times x, negative 5x. Negative 5 times 2, negative 10. Change them to the opposite. This time changing them to the opposite means change them to plus. Negative 5x plus 5x, cancel. Negative 8 plus 10 is 2. All right? So my remainder is 2, but that means it goes up here. It's a positive. It goes up here in the numerator, 2. And then x plus 2, which was my original divisor, goes in the denominator. All right, that's 1. This one has an x cubed, an x squared, an x, and a constant. So I'm good here. I can rewrite it. I'm going to pause and come back. All right, I rewrite everything. I'm looking at this and this to determine what I'm going to write up here. 6x cubed divided by x is 6x squared. Multiply that times x, that's 6x cubed. Multiply the 6x times the 5 plus 30x squared. Change to the opposite, negative, negative. This cancels. 32 minus 30 is 2x squared. Bring down the plus 4x. 2x squared divided by x. How many times is x going to 2x squared? That goes 2x times. 2x times x, 2x squared. 2x times 5 plus 10x. Make it the opposite. You got to remember to do that part or you're going to get a wrong answer. 4 plus negative 10, negative 6x. Bring down minus 21. Negative 6x divided by x is minus 6. That's going to be negative 6x, and that's going to be negative 30. Change to the opposite. Plus, plus. That cancels. Negative 20 plus 30 is 9. 9 is my remainder, so it's going to go up here in a fraction. In the numerator, x plus 5 is the denominator. I want to remind you, and I think I said this in the notes video, but if you're asked the question, is x plus 2 a factor? You know what? I'm going to write that. Is x plus 2 a factor of this big number right here? The answer is no, and that is because there is a remainder. So your answer would be no, and the reason the answer is no is because there's this remainder right here. If there's no remainder, then x plus 2 is a factor of that great big polynomial right there. All right, you might have a question that says, is x plus 5 a factor of that? The answer is no, because there's a remainder. You might also have a question that says, a different color over here, is negative 5 a root? Because you remember this right here, this is called a factor. This is the thing that goes in parentheses. If x plus 5 is in parentheses, the root is actually negative 5. And you remember doing that from last week. So is negative 5 a root? No, because there's a remainder. All right, let's try another one. Okay, this one's a little bit different. Let's see, we have a fourth, a third, a squared, a 1, and a constant. So we don't need to change anything there. We don't need to change anything in the divisor. I'm going to pause and rewrite this thing and come back. I might not have already said this, but you might want to do these on notebook paper, just like with the notes, because it might be easier than trying to write all this out on this PDF. Unless you use an iPad, which is awesome. Okay, 14x to the 4th divided by 2x. That is 7x cubed. All right, 7x cubed times 2x. 14x to the 4th. 7x cubed times negative 3 minus 21x cubed. That changes negative, that changes to positive. That cancels. Negative 29 plus 21, negative 8x cubed. Bring down the plus 24x squared. All right, negative 8x cubed divided by 2x is minus 4x squared. That's going to be negative 8x cubed. Negative 4x squared times negative 3 is plus 12x squared. Don't forget, every time, change those. Those cancel. That's going to be 12x squared. Bring down the plus 2x. Let's see, 12x squared divided by 2x is plus 6x. That's going to be 12x squared. And if you don't understand what I'm doing on this part, I'm taking that 6x and I'm multiplying it times 2x minus 3. So it's distributive property, but I'm just not writing it down. So 6x times 2x is 12x squared. 6x times negative 3 is negative 18x. Change to the opposite. Cancel. Oh, I didn't get my red that time. 2x plus 18x is 20x. Bring down the minus 29. 20x divided by 2x is plus 10. So then I'm taking the 10 and I'm multiplying it times the 2x minus 3, and that's going to go down here under the 20x minus 29. That is 20x minus 30. Change to the opposite. That's going to cancel, and that's going to be a 1. So 2x minus 3 is not a factor of this because I have a remainder of 1. So my remainder goes here, and my 2x minus 3 goes there, and that's a plus because the 1 was positive. Okay, so on the next one, I'm missing some terms. So I have an x cubed and I have an x squared. I am missing an x to the first term. So I'm just going to rewrite this up here. 4x cubed minus 2x squared plus 0x minus 3. So I got to do it that way. Same thing with this divisor right here. I'm missing an x term. So I've got a squared and I've got a constant, but I don't have the x term. So 2x squared plus 0x minus 1. So this looks like it's going to be a pain, but it actually goes a little bit faster. So our divisor is this. And our dividend is 2x squared plus 0x minus 3. I'm going to let you try one by yourself in a minute. Okay, let's see. 4x cubed divided by 2x squared is 2x. That is, so I'm going to take the 2x and I'm going to multiply it times that whole thing and then put it under here. Okay, that's going to be 2x times 2x squared is 4x cubed. 2x times 0x is plus 0x. And then 2x times negative 1 is minus 2x. Still going to change everything to the opposite. Now there is no opposite 0. You can put a negative there if you want to. It doesn't matter. This cancels. Negative 2x squared plus 0 is negative 2x squared. And then 0x plus 2x plus 2x. Now I can bring down my negative 3. Okay. Negative 2x squared divided by 2x squared is minus 1. So now I'm going to take that minus 1 and multiply it times all this. Minus, or negative 1 times 2x squared, negative 2x squared. Negative 1 times 0 plus 0x. I have a feeling I did something wrong on this, so I'm going to go back and check. And then that times the negative 1 is plus 1. Because I wanted to say, I thought this one turned out, I was thinking I remembered this one turning out to be no remainder, but I could be wrong. That's going to be 2x, and that's going to be minus 4. No, I did it right. This is the remainder. Plus, okay, this is going to be kind of long. 2x minus 4 is the numerator. And then you don't have to put this in the denominator. 2x squared minus 1. That was our original divisor. All right, we're getting there. Got 2 more. Okay, I want you to try number 5. I want you to pause your video and try number 5. There are no placeholders in this one. And it does turn out with no remainder. So pause your video. I know you don't want to. Pause your video and try it, and then come back and see if you worked it right. And I'm going to pause my video and work it out. And then you can look and see if you got it right. Remember, there's not going to be remainders. If you get a remainder, you did something wrong. All right, so this is what I got, and I got a remainder of 0. So up here in green is what your answer is, and there's no remainder, so there's no fraction you have to put out here. And I wrote right here in red is 2x minus 1, a factor of 14x to the 4th, and so on, that long polynomial. And the answer would be yes, because there is no remainder, or the remainder is 0. So if there's no remainder, because you might see something like this on an EOC, you might not see divide this. You might see, is this a factor of this? And then you have to use your long division or your synthetic division, which is what we're doing tomorrow, to figure out if it is a factor. Okay, one more, and we're missing some stuff here, so we need some placeholders. We can do that as we go. 4x minus 2 is the divisor, and the dividend starts with 8x cubed. We don't have an x squared. We don't have an x, but we have a constant. So there are two things that we're missing, 2 terms that we're missing, and so we had to put in 0 placeholders for those. All right, let's get this one done. This one's a little bit tricky, but hopefully you understand. All right, so 8x cubed divided by 4x is 2x squared. That's going to be 8x cubed, and 2x squared times negative 2, negative 4x squared. 0 plus 4 is 4x squared. Bring down that 0x. 4x squared divided by 4 is 1x. So it's going to be either a plus x or a plus 1x, doesn't matter. That's going to be x times 4x is 4x squared. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. 0 plus 2x is 2x. Bring down the minus 10. Okay, so here's where it gets a little bit tricky. I need to finish this out, and I can divide 2x divided by 4x, okay? The x's cancel. 2 divided by 4 is 1/2, so I could actually finish this out by putting a plus 1/2 here. Now, you remember that multiplying times 1/2, because I need to multiply that 1/2 times the 4x minus 2. I can multiply 1/2 in here, and 1/2 times 4 is the same thing as 4 divided by 2. So that's 2x, and then 1/2 times negative 2 is minus 1. That way, I can get rid of that, that x value, and negative 10 plus 1 is negative 9, so my remainder is negative 9. So that would be a minus 9 over my original dividend. All right, that's it. Tomorrow is synthetic division, and it's a lot faster. There are only certain cases where you can use synthetic division, though, so that's why I want to teach you long division first, because you can always use long division, and then there are certain instances where you can use synthetic division. So it's a lot faster, and it takes up a lot less room and a lot less time.